right. Well, Java update. The noise. It's a Java update.
That should be a game we play. Sort of like have a
Yeah.
Java update, sort of Deadpool going on.
Something.
Find out when we hear the first one.
Come on, Dreamweaver, open. There we go. All right. So, what was your question, Anthony, that I blew you off at the beginning of class?
I can no longer remember, but
Something about includes.
oh, the assignment that's due for Friday.
So this Friday. So today is May 1st. Creating your theme from your template is due this Friday. Okay. So we're not breaking things into include files just yet. We are, at this point in time, just creating index.php, styles.css, functions.php, and then your screenshot to then put in the main functions, blog info, body class, WP head, WP footer, put in the loop with the title, the permalink, and the content functions. Okay, so where we were then was we look at our theme, we should still be working on index.php. And you should be loading your style sheet with the blog info function, any other style sheets with the blog info function, any JavaScripts with the blog info function. You should have your WP head function in there, the body class function. If you do have images in your theme that you need to load, again, use the blog info function looking into the template directory. For your content, you should have the loop in there. If have posts, while have posts, the post. And then I should actually require you guys to use the ID function, but I don't just yet, but I want you to use the title, the permalink, and the content. Okay, so we're not at the point yet where we are breaking things into the header and the footer files. That's going to be this week. Okay, so for this week then, if we look at the schedule, today we are going to create a navigation and menu system and then create the template files, break things into all those files. So at this point in time, if you are halfway into, so I got questions about this, even Kristen Delvicio. Hi, Kristen. So Kristen, let's see, how many people are here today? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people out of 50 people are here today. I'm getting what's it, 25 people in here? Yeah. So she asked me, hey, as I'm building my theme, you're not going to be able to see my navigation stuff just yet. And I wrote back to her saying, yep, that's a glitch in the matrix, where I am fully aware that if you are in the process of converting your theme, I may not be able to see your menu system, right? In other words, at this point in time, if I look at our proto site, if I click on any of these, right, it will either take me to my template page, which will basically go to a not found page right now. Okay, so this menu system is what we are going to set up today. Okay, but I can always, because I made you do the about page, the blog page, and the contact page, I can always then type in about blog and contact to see if you have set up those pages, right? But I won't be able to check your navigation system. So again, I'm well aware of that. I don't know what to do about that other than just sort of give you a buffer on marking you off on that assignment. Make sense? Okay. So today, then, we are going to set up that menu system. Okay. So if you then have in your template structure, you have a system then that you have about, I don't know, portfolio or whatever you have, blog and contact. Again, I do want you guys to have an about page, the blog page, and a contact page. Then after that, any of the other pages that you have are strictly up to you, right? But right now, this navigation system, if we look at it, yeah, our theme is loading, and if we are then on the home page, it is then loading the blog feed, if you will, right? Because at this point in time, some of you switched it, some of you did not. Again, at this point in time, there's no reason to switch it because we haven't gotten there yet. But let me show you what I'm talking about. In settings, reading, right now, the front page displays my latest posts. Don't go switching this to your home page and post page just yet, right? We'll do that when we set up a home page and our posts feed page, right? But right now, your navigation system is the navigation system that you had in your template. It doesn't go anywhere, right? Again, I've just linked all these to main.html, right? And Bella discovered something interesting. She was wondering why she was getting this, but not any content in here when she clicked on that page, right? Well, what's happening is main.html is not being found right now, okay? So let me just demo this really quickly. So at this point in time, this loop is not finding any content, right? What I could do is, because we're going to start doing conditionals like this today, right? So basically, in the conditionals that we're going to do today, we're going to do one saying if is page, but there are a bunch of conditionals. So this is saying if we're on the 404 page, meaning nothing is found, right? So if I go back here, right, it's basically, so that was another kind of thing that Bella discovered that was like, what's going on? Oh yeah, so that's just like typing out right, nothing found. Okay, so it defaults to the 404 error page, right? Where we can have, and we will down the road. I don't think we do it yeah, we will when we break things out. But that's where if right, this then displays a 404 error, page you're looking for does not exist, try a search, because I have set up a 404.php page, right? And then it basically says, you know, if once this is loaded, page you're looking for doesn't exist, present the search form, etc. So that's what if you were getting something like that as well, just note that that's what was happening. Okay. So, but today what we want to do is let's start putting in the navigation and menu system into our theme. And let me open up my notes to the correct page, because just like you, I can't remember every last, and I have resources. Does that make you feel better? It does, doesn't it? I can remember a lot, but not everything. Yeah.
For responsive WordPress sites, that has to be done through RCSS. WordPress doesn't do that for us.
Correct. It's all yeah, your theme, how you set up your theme. It's all CSS. So so far then we should have set up our pages. So if I then go to the dashboard, go to appearance, I don't have any menus set up yet, or do I? Oh, maybe it's because I haven't registered the menus. That's what it is. Okay. But if I have pages, right, I should see all these pages in there. And if we go back, because this theme is, well, let's just say it like this. If I go and then activate the 2016 theme, right? Now, because that theme is active, you see menus now in the appearance menu. If I go back and activate mine, notice that I lose a lot of stuff in the appearance menu. That doesn't mean that the content, the menu that we set up has gone away, right? That just means that the theme that we're using cannot access it, okay? So what we basically have to do then is to get that menu system back, we have to register our main menus or register our menus. So in our functions file then, again, I'll just use my business sites as an example. Again, if you were sick of my business site, just know that I was sick of it 25 years ago. So in my business site, if I go to appearance, menus, right now I have footer links and main menu that I can go ahead and edit. Well, why I have those two menus set up is because in my functions file, I have set to register nav menus, okay? And this is where then we can register as many menus as you want to have them show up in this space right here that then we set up. Then this is where the names of stuff is going to trip you up quite a bit. In other words, I've registered a menu, okay? That's registering a location for your menu. Main menu and footer menu, okay? Then I actually set up a menu for main menu or footer links. That then, when I'm managing those locations, I say main menu should go in the main menu location. Footer link should go in the footer menu location. Does that make sense? Ish? Yes. Well, wait a second. What? So we set up menus, okay? But I have not registered a location to put that menu in just yet. So what we have to do now is register a menu location by registering our nav menus. So this is where then we are going to start using our functions file, okay? So again, what is the functions file? Well, the functions file is where you can store a lot of things that are, I don't want to say add-ons to your theme, but functionality that you are adding to your theme, right? So for instance, this is where, remember how I said WordPress out of the box doesn't use page or excerpts for pages. It just puts excerpts for postings. Well, by adding post type support for page or adding excerpts to pages, then putting that in my themes functions file, right? Then my theme will allow for pages to have that excerpt meta box. Same thing. I want to add theme support for post thumbnails, right? This one might be an older one, meaning that this is where back in the day we put in support for featured images, right? But we have featured images in what we're doing already. So that might be a kind of a legacy or a depreciated function. But this is where then we can put in the register our menus, we can register sidebars like we're going to in a little while, etc. So what we want to do then is go into our functions file, and I always like to put in comments for start and end, right? So I know, again, if I have long things, long functions, I know where that function is going to end, right? So I'm not blurring my way through. I like separated things, right? So this is where then I am going to use the register nav menus function. Okay. So if we look that up, this is where we will start to see that the way WordPress deals with a lot of the arguments within the functions is by using an array, and we then will rekey that array. Okay? So in other words, register nav menus is the function we're going to use. Here is the argument for locations, right? So then locations, we can then put a set of, an associative array set of keys and values in there, okay? So it's not the parameters, locations. All right, well, this one doesn't have a whole lot of stuff. So if we are registering multiple ones, right, we can use the register nav menus function, or if we are just registering a single one, it looks like we have register nav menu down here. But we can do a single one with the nav. I just use the nav menus. So what we are going to do then is set up an associative array to pass through this function. And this is where then I am going to say the first location that I am going to set up, I am going to use the slug. Remember how we talked about slugs are the URL friendly version of the name of something? I am going to use the slug for main menu. When I do that, then its value that I am going to pass through and I'm not sure if they are inside the parentheses, aren't they? That's why I got that error. Yeah. I would have noticed that if you would have counted to 3 and let me see it over here. I appreciate that. So if I then register main menu and save this now, now I have menus showing up there. Yay, right? And this is where, if we go to manage locations, this is where main menu, right? So if I type in something inappropriate, which you guys have come to expect from me. This is where that name will appear. Okay. And again, this is the slug that we're going to use for that. Now, I'm well aware of that in this case, this name and this slug don't have to match up, right? So there are glitches in the matrix like that. But nonetheless, this is where then, if I have set up a menu called main, right? I'll rename it. Just so I'm, consistent. So if I have main menu there, and then I go to manage locations, this is where in my theme, that one equals this. And I need to tell my main menu that I set up to match the theme location of main menu. Okay. So now that I've done that, that still doesn't mean that all of a sudden, magically, this is going to appear there, right? This is still the old menu system. So if I go to index.php here, right, I have then this old menu system still sitting there. Here's what I want to do. I'm going to comment it out because I'm going to need these names. Okay. In other words, I have to, so if I save this now, and I take a look, my navigation is gone temporarily. Bye-bye. But what I want is a navigation system. In other words, I have CSS set up to use that name. I'm not really using this one. I can bypass that one. But as well, what I had set up, let's actually turn it back on to show you. What I did have set up was, oh, it may not work. Okay, it's not going to work. Let's see. Of course it's not going to work because the navigation system doesn't work. I have the rollovers, but when I used this originally, I had the "You Are Here" links set up. Remember like we did in Web 200? Or did you guys do those in Web 120 at all? 240? So if I inspect that, then it has written a class occurrent into it, right? Because in the navigation file, I did set up a variable that then looked at the URL pathway for the file name. And if the file name was about.php, then echo a class occurrence into the list item. Right? And then that class occurrence I used as my "You Are Here" state. Okay? We're going to do the same thing with WordPress. It just writes those classes into the system as part of the out-of-the-box WordPress experience. Right? The out-of-box experience, also known at Microsoft as the UBI. Yes, Anthony. I was in a meeting with adults, and they were saying the UBI over and over again. And I was like, what the fuck is the UBI? And they're like, you know, the out-of-box experience. The UBI, like I should have known. And I was like, you guys are adults. True story. So, all I'm saying is the checks from Microsoft cleared, and they were pretty good. So what I need to do then is set up my dynamic WordPress menu system. So what I want to do then is through a function called WP nav menu, right? This is the function that then I want to use to call my menu system, okay? So if I just type it out like this, default like, let's see what happens, because I forget what happens. I think it's just going to load something there and use different class names, and I think it's just going to grab the first default one. So basically, it then grabbed the first default menu that it found and just populated it over here, okay? So what's actually happening? Well, if I take a look at that then, it has written div, class, menu, main menu, container, UL, ID, menu, main menu, class, menu, and the list items with other classes in there as well, right? So like I said, it just basically found the first menu it came across and populated that in there without regard to any of the names, any of the locations, any of the anything, okay? So just like we started passing arguments through our function here as an associative array, so too when it comes to using any other functions that have multiple values that we need to access, right? We're going to use an associative array here as well. So if we go and take a look at the WP nav menu function, right? Again, it wants to use arguments as an array here. So the arguments that we can pass through there are what desired menu, right? We can put a menu class there, a menu ID. We can tell this menu to have a certain container. We can have a container class, container ID, before, after, so on and so forth, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what I'm basically going to do, or what I want to do, is I want to match the container ID to this. I could match the items container like that if I wanted to. I'm not going to worry about that one. Okay? But to start off with, again, I want to say array. And this is where then theme, location, right? So if we go back to here, where is it? Where is it? Theme, location, right? So theme location to be used must be registered with register nav menu in order to be selectable by the user. So therefore, what that means is we have registered main menu, right? So this is the name main menu. This is the slug main menu. So what we need to do is access the slug of main menu. So yay, we have our first argument passed. Then, because I am using a container of a div tag with the ID of navigation, I want to say container div container ID If I stop there, then, like I said, I'm not going to worry about this one. But basically, through this argument system, then, I am saying, go grab the main menu. When you write it into the screen, use container of a div tag. Put that container ID as navigation, because that's what I used to do my template system with. Right? Again, container defaults with div. Container ID, the ID that is applied to the container. So now it should pick up my CSS. However, this was hidden in my template system, right? Because that was my responsive template system. Now, this one then comes written in with a class of submenu. Okay, so if I were to go look at then my old system here, oh, you know what? I never had a submenu in this one. So therefore, I am going to have to open up my styles. Go to my navigation. I'm going to have to edit this there anyway. So I am going to say then navigation UL LI UL class submenu. Navigation LI no, UL LI UL submenu. Display. Done. You will have to go and do the same kind of thing given how you, set up your system of, closing and hiding stuff, right, with the toggle menu, etc. Right? Does that make sense, Chris? Okay. Put it this way. You are going to have to play the game of WordPress writes its own classes into your menu system. Okay. So you are going to have to go compare what you did in your old menu system with the classes and IDs and that kind of stuff that WordPress uses now. You can control certain things by saying, for instance, right? Again, if you use the ID of navigation up here, you can then say the container do that, right? But the submenu system come on, where is it? Where is it? There it is. That submenu, WordPress is going to write that class in there for you. So in your toggle menu, right? In other words, if we looked at the toggle menu system, I don't understand that question. What do you mean? Okay, because we have sub-items here in our navigation system, Chris, right? Therefore, WordPress says portfolio has a submenu. So I'm WordPress and I can do what I want, right? So because I'm WordPress and I rule, I'm just going to write a UL with a class of submenu in there, and you're going to get over it. And you are going to then do this, Chris. Watch. So in order for these things to work properly now, remember when you spent hours and hours and hours trying to do this in Web 200, you and Trang, right? And you too, Dwayne? Yeah. So what you have to do then is make sure that in your JavaScript here that you used, right? Why did I write ul.submenu here? Because this is what WordPress is using as that class. So if you had something else written here, you are going to have to go and find the WordPress class and replace it here with the WordPress class. Does that make sense? Let me demonstrate it like this. Okay. Again, when I first did this as a static proto site, much like you guys did in the Web 200 class, right? I did those "you are here" links. When I did those "you are here" links, I wrote a class of current into the list item. Okay. So now that I've got this menu set up and I go to the About page, it's not accessing the class of current here. Why? Well, WordPress says, I'm WordPress. I do what I want, right? Kind of like Cartman. And WordPress says, well, if you're on the About page, the class is current menu item. See what I'm saying? So therefore, what I need to do is replace current with current menu item. So that's what you guys are going to have to do, is play the game of what did I do in my prototype? What names did I use? What names did I use that I can still keep intact, like div ID navigation? What classes does WordPress just say, I'm king of the world, and I'm going to write what I want, and you're going to have to adhere to them? Does that make sense, Chris? I wish you luck. It's hard out there for a web developer. So yeah, that's the, yeah. Now, I could have told you in Web 200 use these specific names, but I didn't. Right? Does that make sense? So yeah, this is going to hurt me a lot more than it's going to hurt you, Chris, and that's a total lie, because it's not going to hurt me at all, right? But that's the game. You're discovering the game that you have to play. So when next time around, if you know you're going to be developing a WordPress site, Chris, now you know, oh, I have to use these certain class names and ID name, or these class names, etc. And fuck that Mike guy. He could have warned me about this, right? But he didn't, because, you know, he wants me to cry. He collects the tears of students. Right? Okay, so now if I click through this, then that you are here state should work. Okay? That is basically then how you replace your whatever navigation system that you used with the WP nav menu system. Okay? So again, you know, you can create the menu and set the location. You can tell it to use a division tag or a nav tag. You can name the container. I could, if I wanted to, wrap the let me show you what I'm talking about. I could wrap this right here, the UL. Notice it says ID, menu, main, menu. Well, my old one was UL ID navigation items. So if I wanted to do that, I could pass another argument through this system. As I'd have to write out the whole tag, etc. So we'll just, you guys can take a look at it in my notes if you want, but I've just basically stopped passing anything through except for the container, right?
With the container class, with this type of system, you can also then put in multiple classes, right?
Yeah, yeah. So if you wanted to as well put a container, so if you've controlled this with a class instead of an ID, right, you can then pass container class through there, right? And it will then pick up that class and add it to whatever classes it uses in there, okay? All right. Make sense?
Yes.
Thank you. So the next thing we want to do is, oh, I forgot to do my, let me just make sure I go and do this. So for the navigation submenu, so when it gets down to that level, it just shows it. All right. So now what I want to do is my sub navigation. So this is where we want to have a set of sub navigation for only the pages that have sub navigation, like the portfolio section. Right? Currently, this right here is just temporary nonsense. Okay? So what I can do there as well for my sidebar is I don't need to keep any names in here because nothing is really that important. So I'm just going to delete that out of there and say now I need to put in navigation items if there are navigation items to have. So this one is where we are going to start getting into then the conditional structures that you're either going to love or hate. Let's close some of these. Let's leave that one open. Register. Sidebar. I don't understand the question. It's there. It's implemented. What? Well, in other words, what I did was I showed them at under 600. And again, it's still broken to a large portion. In other words, what I would have to do is I would have to go back now and edit all of this to act the way I want it to. In other words, in this demo that I did for the UW class, we didn't do a toggle menu for sub-navigation items because we didn't have enough time to do that. We just did a toggle the main menu, right? So basically what I'm saying is I've just flubbed this a little bit to get the functionality working, right? You, Chris, now will have to make sure you go through there and access the classes and stuff and match it to your, in other words, I'm not going to go and redo my JavaScript. Theoretically, right? So let me know at 3 in the morning how that worked for you. Okay. No phone calls, but posting mean things on my Facebook wall is totally acceptable. Posting passive-aggressive GIFs, I love that. Yeah.
People actually done that.
Yes. And it's funny when they post GIFs that are flipping me off because they're mad at me. It means I win. Okay. So yeah, so what I'm saying, Chris, is at desktop, right, my submenu is hidden, and I don't have a drop down going on right now because in this demo, I didn't do a drop down. No, it uses a consistent class name. So in other words, if we look, well, look at this. So it's all relative to how you're building it. Okay, so if we look at my business site here, okay, if all else fails, Chris, go to my business site's GitHub and compare what I've done with what you should do, right? Because I've tried to write what I've used my business site basically as a, here's what you can do. I mean, my business site is my main demo these days. You know, it's not for getting business anymore. It's for keeping up with you guys and showing you guys what to do. So, but in then the navigation structure, I've used the same thing, right? Now, when it comes to then these as submenu items, this, you should have a class and an ID with numbers. Look at this. Okay, so it is going to write multiple classes. Those are all separate classes. So did you know that you can write multiple classes into an element? Yeah. So you separate writing multiple classes with a space in there, where you can only write one ID. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah.
Have you ever used 1000? Because all those stuff that works on classes and it's multiple classes.
Yeah. Possibly. Yes. Okay, so what you're saying here, right? This class, menu item has children. Yes, that is basically saying that this menu item has children pages, where the one right above it does not. So all the main menu items that have subpages, take a look right here, Chris, right? Have a class, menu item has children. And this is what I'm talking about, where WordPress has its system of classes that it writes into its elements that you just need to get to know what they're naming things and how to then utilize in your jQuery or your CSS. Correct. Yes. And that's what I'm saying. Like, it theoretically, once you get to know how WordPress names things and what classes it writes in there, you'll just, yeah. Yes, it handles all the markup for you. So in other words, you know, if I am in, let's say, if I go to the services page, set of pages, right? And I look back at the navigation structure, okay? It is then telling me that this menu item for services is the current menu item, okay? If I then go into a destination sublevel page, it will also tell me that this is the current page ancestor or current menu parent, which is how you then, and we'll start using parent as a keyword here in a second. Right. So that's where what I needed to do to get the "you are here" links, I need to then in my CSS, what? Yeah, but you have to say active or current for a page, a parent page, an ancestor page, right? Because they're all different levels, okay? So that's where then for, in my CSS here, for my business site, and if some of you at home are like, oh my God, come on, move on from this conversation, my answer is you should have shown up for class and said that. So if I look for current, right, this is where, take a look. I'm saying current page item, current page parent for different things, right? For the you are here states. So they used to do it with an underscore like that. Now they're doing it with a dash instead. So I still have some legacy stuff in there. But that's how it's done, Chris. All right. So now what we want to do is, now you've learned how to use the WP nav menu system. So what you could do is set up widgets or other menus for different pages for sub-navigation, which gets really, really cumbersome. So because I have an agenda of what I want to teach you guys in this class, I am now going to teach you how to use the WP list pages function. Okay? So if I just straight up in my sidebar here said use the WP list pages function, right? It should show me all of the pages in my site with a header. Okay, so that might be useful, right? In other words, if you want to just print out a page tree according to how you've ordered things in your pages. So it is going to default to alphabetic and then subpages of whatever alphabetic. Or if you have used the, in other words, if I want contact to be after portfolio, right now portfolio, if I edit this page, is at the order of 0, right? Again, nobody's looking up here on the screen, so you don't know what I'm talking about. Order of 0. So if I wanted then the contact page to be last in this chain, I could order that as number 4. And if I viewed page, now contact is down at the bottom. Okay? But what I want to do here is I only want to present subpages of a parent page. So therefore, what I need to do is, what? Another function that you pass arguments through it as arrays, as a system of arrays? No way. In other words, right? So what we need to do is, for this menu, we have some conditions that we need to write out. So first, let's just basically replace the H2 with the title of the post parent. So if we did this here, echo get the title, and this is where we want to say we want to use the post variable, not the global post variable, but post variable, meaning everything is a post object, remember? Okay, so we want to say for the parameter or the property, we want to say post parent, okay? Meaning we want to get the title for the parent page if we're on a subpage. So if we go back to this and let's say we were on the logos page, right? It is now going to tell us that the parent page is portfolio. Even if we're on the portfolio page, it is going to say portfolio. But if we are on the contact page, it's going to say contact, about page, blog page, etc. Okay? Again, we don't need all of these items here either. So what we want to start doing is, slowly but surely, we want to build a conditional system here with the correct arguments of what we need to get. Okay, so as well, let's see in the so I'm going to open up the sidebar here and notice, oh, there it is, it does put those into a UL tag. So I then need to get rid of this title here for pages. So what I am going to do then is go and start passing arguments of title list item. Blank. And by to the title that it wrote out. Okay? But again, let's go check and see how it's writing everything else out. Right now, it has also gotten rid of the UL tag there for the parent UL tag. So, although I don't want those parent pages in there, the only page in there that I really want then is to have those subpages. I want to get rid of those. So this is where then I'm writing out WP list pages, but I only want to say write out pages for children of a page, right? So let's go back to the lecture, and that's where we want to say if, so I'm going to write out a sub-navigation items UL. Or maybe I don't need, I'll see if I need to do that. I want to say if post post parent, okay? So if the page has a parent, write out the children. Give myself a little bit of room here. If post parents array. Let's put some other arguments in here. What? Yay, child of, right? And this is where we want to have two things. So the first one is going to be child of don't need the strings there. Post. You're going to get sick of writing this one. Post. Parent. Okay. So basically, what we are doing then, if the page has a parent, list out the parent's children. The glitch in the matrix. Well, I'm showing you if you're on a child page, list out the children, while I'm not on a child page. So my show just broke down. So what I have to do is go to a child page, right? And because we said if we, in other words, this conditional is checking the location of where you are in the site. So if you are on a page, if you're on a page that has a parent, right, like logos, has a parent of portfolio, list out the children of portfolio, right? So therefore, anywhere I am then, websites, research, print, logos, it's then going to print those out, right? And again, if we take a look at the code in the sidebar, yep, it still didn't put a UL tag around it. So I want to then UL class sub navigation items. And this is going to be a class that is just a handwritten class in there. You can choose whatever you want to write out. So the next thing then, obviously, well, maybe not so obviously, but if you're on a page that has a parent, list out those pages. What if you are on the parent page? What if I am on the portfolio page? What? You have to list the children of that page, right? That was a good answer. You're seeing the WordPress logic. That's how you have to start thinking of stuff in the WordPress world. So else. WP, list, pages, hooray, hooray! I always want to say that whenever I say hooray. I don't know. Does anybody else feel that way?
You're planting seeds, though.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody's like, dude, just keep on going. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of the title, LI. And I believe instead of writing it out with the underscore in parentheses, I think I can just do it like that. And I also want to say then, child of corn. Instead of post parent, post ID, right? So if you want to see, if you want to say, if we're on this page, right, for the post ID that we're on, right? I have an error somewhere. Where is my error? Is that my error? Hooray! So now I have pages for, right? And if I go to blog, if I go to contact, if I go to about, I don't have any. If I did put some in there, then I would have some in there. Okay. So now what I want to do is I'm actually going to, I don't remember if I'm supposed to do it now or later, but I'm going to do it now. This is where then I am going to go to my dashboard and I am going to go to reading and set my front page to a static page called home and my post page to blog. So if you don't have a static page called home, create that. But now that I've done this, home, about, portfolio, contact, and now if I go to blog, unfortunately, it wants to show me the title of the first posting there, which is kind of stupid. But whatever. But what I want to do here is, currently, I have uncategorized I'm gonna rename the default one. So now I have articles, news, tutorials, case studies. Okay, so I'm going to add some categories in here. So what I've done on my business site is, it looks like it's a bunch of subpages. So if I go to blog, this is where then I have set up categories of my blog to show here as sub-navigation. Why did I do that? It just seemed reasonable, right? And again, this is just something to demo how to do here in the WordPress class so you guys can get used to doing this kind of stuff. So if I go to articles, it's basically a category under my blog, case studies, tutorials. It shows me then the feed of that stuff. So I want to do something similar where I want to, instead of having subpages here, I want to then show categories. Okay. So this is where then what we have to do to start out is, well, let's not do that to start out and then we'll show it to you. We can use the list categories as the same type of functionality as list pages. Okay? So I want to, just like that, have then, oh, it's going to stay in some navigation. That's right. So again, this is where we'll have to figure out our conditional logic and see what we want to do and where. So if we then say, WP list categories, I save it. Now, everywhere in my site, let's save the categories. Could be. That's probably it. News, okay. Yep, that was it. Okay. So no matter where I am in my site, it's going to also do categories for me like this. But that's not what I want to do, right? So this is where, as well, for categories, I don't want that up there. So same kind of thing as in our list pages function. So if we go to the list categories, same thing, arguments, child of, current category, depth, exclude, so on and so forth. Title LI, so if we don't want a title LI in there. And, to be consistent, get rid of the brackets around that, or the parentheses around that one. Great, so now it's just going to do that. So what type of conditional, if we only want those categories to show up on the set of blog postings, what type of conditional structure are we looking for? What do we have to say? There's a couple of different ways we can go. Okay. So we can say if is single. No. Oh. I've never really been that much of a fan of Doctor Who. Sorry. So I can say if is single, and they'll disappear. But, so if I was on a single posting, they would show up there, right? However, if I'm on the blog feed, what's the conditional for that? That's not a single posting, right? That actually is if is home, right? So if we use the conditionals, in other words, when we start using conditionals like, let's see if I link to it. Those categories, additional tags. So the main page, oops, is home, right, for the blog feed. For the front page or your home page, I know, really kind of confusing, right, is front page. Is admin, is single with a number, right? So on and so forth. Is page. So what we might be looking for is instead of this there, I always like to put spaces between this stuff, right? Page. So if we're on a page, and if you're on a page that has a parent, list the children. Else, if we are on a parent page, list the parent's children. Else, if we are not on a page, meaning everything else, list the categories. Okay, so even though blog is technically a page, it is set up to be the blog feed, so it is no longer a normal page. It is the home, right? So now if we're in about, it says about, no children, portfolio, portfolio children, if we're on any one of these children, portfolio children, blog, blog, right? Categories, if we're in a single post, categories, contact, right? Now, remember the 404 thing as well. We should see categories here because we're not in a typical page, right? So conditional structures like that can get a little bit messy, right? But nonetheless, this is then how you generally do this. So the last thing that we want to clean up here is we don't want the first title up there as the sub-navigation's headline. So same thing. This is where now, well, we have a couple of different choices, right? We can then write the same kind of conditional into just there, right? In other words, I could say for this H2, if is page echo the title, right? Else echo our own, just saying blog. Again, the downfall of this is, what if we go to the not found? What might be a good thing to do for the not found pages? List out the entire page tree and categories, etc. Right? Because we're on the not found. It's up to you what you guys want to do, right? But this is basically then your way of starting to do conditional statements in WordPress using their very rudimentary conditions of where are we in the website? What's happening in the website? Right? Does that make sense? I think that's enough for today. Again, if you look at my lecture notes, I've written it a tad bit different here. I use the if is page, colon, close that out, write that. You can write it however you want to. I don't care. Right? As long as it works, right? Because how many developers are going to write the same exact logic, right? You know the adage, you give a problem to 10 developers, they'll come back with the same solution written out 10 different ways. So that's the, same thing here. But nonetheless, you can start looking at the logic and how it's all written out. And there you have it. So let's see, that's the end of that. So then on Wednesday, we will chop things up into the template. That includes the header, footer, that kind of stuff. And so what we're going to do is eventually put this into a sidebar file. But anyhow, that's doing navigation stuff. Hooray! All right. Oh man, I wasn't recording this. I'm kidding, I was recording. So if you're listening, if you're watching this at home, and I said, oh my God, I wasn't recording this, you're listening to it. Okay, I hate you guys.